Hello my snacks, welcome back. How have you been? It's been a little while since I've said hello. Hope this last week and a half for you has been a lot more enjoyable than this person's last 8 months. We're visiting r/entitled people today, with a story that begins with someone buying a simple apartment, mistakenly thinking that they have bought the building somehow, and applying some sort of dictatorship ruling over everyone living in this place. It starts with, our neighbor thinks she owns the building. I, a 31 female, live in a block of 6 units, apartments for non-Australians. A month ago, the unit above mine went up for sale and sold fairly quickly, and the new owner moved in less than a week ago. This morning, I got up and went to take rubbish out and found a note stuck to my door. I honestly thought it was a "I'm new to the building" kind of note, you know? Oh, I could have not have been more wrong.
Dear tenant, I recently bought your building and wish to introduce myself. My name,
Blah blah, not going to put in her actual name.
and I think you will find me a fair landlord. However, I do have rules. 1. Everyone is to be in their units by 9 p.m. If you're going to be out past this, I suggest you find accommodation elsewhere. 2. No pets allowed. If you have any, they must be relocated before I do an inspection, or I will call the ranger to remove them. This is the only warning. 3. I will conduct an inspection once a month, and you will be present to answer any questions or face eviction. 4. Failure to pay rent on time will result in your eviction. If we all follow these rules, I'm sure we will get along. Sincerely, blah blah.
What the F did I just read? Fun fact about my building. We all own our own units. Nobody actually owns the whole building. I won't lie, I got to the number 2 and had a slight panic attack because I have cats and there's no way I was giving them away before I remembered we bought our unit just before Christmas. We rented it from a friend prior, and when she told me she was thinking about selling it, we bought it. It didn't even have to move. So, in some ways, it still feels like renting, but we actually own our own unit. Now, I'm not great at confronting someone. I tend to shake a lot, but at that moment, I was quite angry, so I went upstairs and knocked on her door. You know that gut feeling you have? It was spot on. That door opened, and there stood a kraken. Her hair blonder than my own, her nails long and bright-colored. She didn't look happy to see me there. I introduced myself and explained that I lived downstairs and that I wanted to talk to her about her note. She started to talk over the top of me, explaining that her letter was basic rules, and even a child could understand it, and if I didn't like her rules, I could hand in a letter to vacate. Wow. I would ask if people are really this up themselves, but I work in retail and could answer my own question. I told her that I actually own my own unit. She hadn't bought it or the rest of the building, but only her own unit, and that she couldn't enforce anything in her note. She didn't like that at all. She started yelling at me, saying that yes, she had indeed bought the whole building, and that failure to comply with her rules would mean I would be evicted. I mean, I was just starting to think maybe I was wrong when another neighbor opened his door. He came out and asked what the issues was about, and could she stop screaming as he worked nights and was trying to sleep. I told him I was trying to explain that she hadn't bought the building, and she started yelling again. My neighbor told her to stop, and then said the best thing I heard that day. "Are you stupid?" Her jaw dropped as he explained to her how wrong she was and that he was in fact part of the strata committee, kind of like a homeowners association that oversees the building, and that she had no right to make rules for everyone. She gave us dirty looks before slamming the door. I thanked him, and he said in the entire time he lived there, he hadn't seen someone so entitled. It's a ridiculous situation, which leaves many to ponder down in the comments. What exactly made her think she owned the whole building in the first place? Like, is she so freaking illiterate that she misunderstood the terms of sale as presented to her by the previous owner of her apartment? And as said here, based on the state you are in Australia, there's no way her handwritten note could be considered legal. You can't set a curfew on when someone lives somewhere. And in some specific states, a lot of this inspection stuff, it wouldn't even be valid. She wouldn't even be allowed in the building without 24 hours notice, and even then you can easily say no. It's only a short month later, though, that the OP experiences another event from this neighbor. This time about a very ridiculous parking issue, which the neighbor does take to the extreme. So, I guess this is an update to my last post. I had a lot of people ask me to post if she did anything else. This is all currently happening, and my significant other is witnessing it and texting me as I'm at work. So, after the story of the last post, she has been quiet for the last few days, and I thought maybe that's it. Apparently, I was wrong. So each unit in our building is allocated one parking space. Just one. I park in mine, and my significant other parks his car on the street on the other side of the building. Our parking lot had one visitor space. It's a very small parking lot, so 6 spots for residents and 1 visitor. The visitor spot is nearly always empty, and my neighbors have said my significant other could park his car there if he wanted, as we are the only unit with 2 cars, but he doesn't mind parking where he is. Well, this morning, my significant other woke up to yelling. Our kitchen window overlooks the parking lot, and he snuck a peek out the window and saw the Kraken standing next to our nice neighbor's car, and they were arguing loudly. She kept yelling that she had a second car and needed to park in his spot, and he had to move his car or else she would have it towed. He kept repeating that it was his parking spot and she could either park it in the visitor spot or on the street, and if she towed his car, he would report it stolen. My partner said she kept yelling she can park where she wants, and he needed to move it or else. So, my partner decided to park his car in my empty spot in case she tried to park there while I'm at work. Last message he sent me was she has stormed upstairs in a huff and slammed her door. So just a mere typical argument between neighbors. Where's the escalation? Well, in the update. I got home from work and she has parked her second car in the visitor spot, but she's parked it so badly, it's blocking the driveway in. Right now I'm parked on the street, but too tired to deal with her. Second update. So like I said before, her car was basically blocking the driveway and I had to park on the street. Anyway, when I got up from work the next day, it was still there, but when I came home, it was gone. I asked my partner as he was at home, and apparently a tow truck came and took it away. I'm still not sure which neighbor called the tow truck, but I have a suspicion it's the one she was arguing with. My partner said she's been quiet all day, only the odd footsteps. Yeah, so in their mere attempts to try and get some power over everyone, they end up losing their car. Very effective strategy. Many comments offering and suggesting that they record every interaction they have with this crazy Kraken, and I don't blame them. So, do things get worse? Apparently, they do. With the next update, not so much being an update, but just another side story of sorts, entitled Neighbor Won't Let Anyone Use the Clothesline. To quickly summarize this one, as nothing much really happens, the OP decides to get 5 loads of sheets and blankets done in the wash because it's been raining, and this has been the only moment where it suddenly stopped raining, so they're desperate to try and get these things dried. But just an hour later, to get the first load off, they found every single item they had hung out on the ground. Nothing had replaced it. All of it had been torn down, and the pegs and peg basket were gone. Most of what I'd hung out was still wet and now covered in dirt. So you can imagine after doing that 5 times and for the first load to be dried has been just destroyed. Yeah, I'd be pretty ticked off too. When she answered, I asked if she had taken my washing off the line, and she smugly informed me that she had not given me permission to use her line, and that next time I should be polite and ask that she might let me. Look, I'm going to level with you guys. I work in retail and deal with nightmare customers. I know how to be calm around these kind of people, and I tried to be polite about this whole thing with the letter and the car, but my bed is my safe space, and I wanted it clean, and she fricked with that just to be petty. I calmly told her that everyone can use the line. It's part of the building and nobody has to ask her permission. She tried to talk over me, but I just held my hand up and told her I was part of the strata committee. I know all the rules, who owns what, and she needs to pull her head out of her butt, grow up, and stop her behavior because it's not doing her any favors. I told her to have a nice day before she slammed her door. And thankfully it turns out that the OP has taken the advice of many of the comments, with the partner keeping a record of all these engagements. But either way, seems like there was some weight behind the words now, and the Kraken of a neighbor will hopefully be dialing down the crazy. Maybe hosting a party as an apology of sorts. Entitled Neighbor Throws a Party. Please note, this is all still within the same month, maybe month and a half. I was really hoping my neighbor would settle down, but here we are, though this story has a satisfying ending, I think. This just happened last night and I'm still a bit tired, so I'm sorry for any spelling mistakes. Our neighbor had been quiet for a while, and my partner and I thought maybe she had finally realized she couldn't control the whole building. One of her cars was parked in her spot, and the other was parked on the street behind my partner's car. Nobody's washing had been ripped off the line, no new notes were stuck to doors. Until yesterday. As we are the bottom unit, or apartment, we have a side door that opens out into the shared yard. I think the only time I use that door is to air the place out, or as a shortcut to hang the washing out. Sorry, anyway, yesterday we were going about our day when we saw the entitled Kraken and a few other people setting up tables and chairs in the yard. No big deal, it's a shared space. A few minutes later, there's a knock on the side door, and it's her. My partner opened the door. It's a glass sliding door, so she could see us. We couldn't pretend we weren't there, and did the usual greetings. She told us she was having a party, and we needed to move our wooden planters off our patio because she needed the space for her barbecue. No. Firstly, the patio is our space, not shared space, and secondly, they sit right next to the glass door, so I don't want some random looking into my living room all night while they are cooking. My partner reminded her she doesn't own the building, and we wouldn't be moving Schmidt. When one of her friends asked what the frick was she doing, they had already set up the barbecue in the yard. She huffed and walked off without saying anything to us, and we thought that was it. It was not. You do have to ponder how accepting her friendship circle is of her, or tolerating is probably the better word. This friend clearly picked up on her doing her typical Kraken behavior and was like, hey, shut up! A few hours go by and we ended up closing the curtains for privacy. Whoever designed this building didn't really keep privacy in mind for a detail, but anyway. We can hear talking, laughing, and cooking, the usual sounds of a backyard party when there's another knock on the door. I was cooking dinner, so my partner answered it again. This time, it was one of her friends saying she had to use the bathroom, and the entitled neighbor told her to just knock on our door instead of walking upstairs. My partner politely told her sorry, but she couldn't use ours, and she apologized for knocking and intruding. Not even 2 minutes later, there's banging on the door, and by now my partner is annoyed. He opened the door, and the Kraken started to lay into him about how dare he expect her guests to go all the way upstairs, and that he needed to apologize to her and keep the door open for her guests. Now, my partner is usually a calm guy, very easy to talk to and rational, but in that moment, he lost himself. He told her to frick off and stop bothering us, to get her head out of her butt, and she can't lay claim to everything she sees. Our bathroom wasn't hers to use. Her guest could use her bathroom, and if she knocked on our door again, he would call the police for harassment. At this point, one of her friends came over and told the entitled neighbor she needed to leave us alone and stop bugging us, before apologizing and telling us to have a good night. We expected the party to be loud and go on all night, but it actually wrapped up pretty early. About 1 a.m., I think. Wait, that's early? Jeez. This morning when I got up, everything had been cleaned up from the yard, but our planters had been knocked over. Joke's on her, because we hadn't planted anything in them yet, and most of the soil in there was used cat litter. I use potting mix as cat litter because it's cheaper, so now she can smell my cat's old turds. Top comment so far. It is amazing how such an entitled bitch has reasonable friends. Which, yes, it does make you wonder how long they're going to be friends after this. I feel like this was just one of the last straws for tolerating this person in your social gatherings. There was another comment that says, yeah, it might just be a case of family that just knows how she is. With that story from April, we now move a month later into May, where the crazy Kraken has developed more into a stereotype of being an unloved person by really wanting to pet a cat. It's okay to say that because I'm someone who loves to pat cats too, so I can make that criticism. After a quick little revision on the history of this neighbor, so as I am on the ground floor, I have a glass sliding door that opens out into the shared yard. Not happy about this, but we mainly treat it like a window anyway. Being that it was a nice cool day, I had the door open, but the screen door shut and locked, so I could air the house out after having rained and the house smelling musty. Whenever that door is open, my cats will sit at it and watch all the birds outside. I was pretty tired, and my partner suggested we both lay down and have a nap while I wait for the washing machine to finish. Thought, sure, why not? It's quiet today, and we went and laid down. We were woken up about an hour later to a rattling noise in the lounge room, and I thought that maybe one of the cats had tried to climb the screen door again, so I got up to scold them and found the Kraken trying to open my screen door, like really pulling on it to the point the whole door was shaking. I asked her what she was doing, and she told me she had seen my cats through the door while on her way to hang clothes out and wanted to pet them, but the door was stuck. Yeah, maybe because it's locked, you idiot. I told her it wasn't stuck, it was locked. Yes, that's what I was just saying. Because this is a private residence and she can't just walk in here whenever she pleases. She kept trying to open the door while yelling that I can't keep my cats from people if they want to pet them, and it's her right to show them real love. God, I really want to believe this is a fake story at this point, but we all know there are people out there who are capable of this. I repeated that this was my home and she couldn't walk in whenever she wanted. Now this seemed to really tick her off, and she started to yell at me that I was a little bitch and I was abusing my animals, and how dare I speak to her like that. At this point, I was pretty sick of being yelled at and in my own home, so I just mustered up the sweetest smile I could before politely telling her to frick off. If looks could kill, my cats would be eating my body right now. Jeez, that's a bit dark. She tried to open the door again when my partner came out and said he would call the police if she didn't stop. She finally let go of the door, glared at us, and stormed off. Needless to say, we are ordering another camera for that door now, and yes, my cats are microchipped. In regards to why she didn't make sure she was recording this scenario, well, her phone was charging at the time, she didn't take it with her when she got up and realized it was the neighbor. Also, more importantly, here's the kitties for reference. And I'll be honest, I'm starting to understand why the neighbor was so hell-bent on having to pat these things. Look at them. Your hand is magnetized towards their heads. We move on another month into the future, where the OP posts about things being a little bit too quiet. And basically, in summary, it turns out, just reading this final paragraph is all we need, she broke her foot. Apparently, at the last family dinner, she tripped over a dog and broke her foot, and is now staying with family because she can't get up and go down the stairs. Apparently, a young friendly man was house-sitting for her because apparently the neighbors can't be trusted. But just by meeting them, it's clear that he's realized that, okay, yeah, Kraken's just being a Kraken. Sadly, this breather doesn't last too long, as 2 weeks later we come to another update with this Kraken, who is back and requires OP to isolate elsewhere. Because that's something we can all afford to do in this time and age. Yeah, just go pay and live somewhere else in the meanwhile. Well, she's back. I was hoping she just wouldn't come back after she broke her foot, but last week we heard a door slam from upstairs, we looked outside, and yup, her car is there. No idea if her nephew, who was house-sitting, is there or not still. Anyway, a few days ago, I tested positive for the much-whispered pathogen, and have been doing the right thing and staying inside and dying quietly. I'm fully vaccinated, so it's not that bad, though I could live without the headaches. My partner was away all day Saturday because he was picking up his new car, and we got home late Saturday afternoon. Parking his new car on the back lawn so he could give it a quick hose down from the drive, I was inside watching through the sliding door when I heard her balcony door open, and she started yelling at him to get off her lawn. He told her to shove it, it's not her lawn, and he is done when he is done, and can she please stop yelling because I have COVID and it doesn't help the migraines. Well, that was a mistake. I heard her storming down the stairs, and she starts banging on our door screaming that I'm diseased and I need to isolate somewhere else before she gets sick, and if I don't leave, she was going to call the police. I told her, through the main door, that she has been told repeatedly that she can't kick us out of our own place that we own. I am staying inside, and that she should call the police if she wanted, but she would more than likely be fined herself for wasting their time. According to my partner, who was coming in after moving his car, she looked downright murderous, but once she saw him, she took off upstairs. Haven't heard anything from her since or anything from the police, so we think it was an empty threat. But I was so tempted to open the door because, like they say, sharing is caring. Also, edit to add, just wanted to add that because I've had a few comments on it, we can't get her evicted from her own home as she owns it, just like we own ours. Also, lawyers in Australia are very expensive just to talk to. Like when we bought our unit, the lawyers handling the sale charged us for everything. They stuffed up the paperwork by misspelling my name and then charged us more to reissue the papers with the correct name. As far as I know, my upstairs neighbor spoke to his lawyer about her, but they can't do much anyway. And that brings us to our final update in this saga. Just back in October, the entitled neighbor strikes again. This time practicing the respectful art of taking your packages and then being extremely disgusted when the packages are something that are personal. I won't lie, I was hoping I would never have to post again and she would become a normal neighbor. I was wrong. So she was so quiet for so long and her car was barely there, I was starting to think maybe she had moved out, but I got a nice reminder last week that she is still around. To start this story, I must give a brief background. There are 8 units total in this building. Kind of confusing when they said there were 6 units originally, but I'm going to assume with that being the only typo I've come across so far that that was just a genuine typo. I am on the ground floor and the very nice old lady across the hallway and I have an unspoken rule that if one of us is home and the other isn't, we sign for and accept packages so they just aren't left in the hallway. I had been expecting a package and I had a feeling it was going to show up while I was at work, but I wasn't worried because of my nice old neighbor. She would drop it off when I got home. No drama, right? Wrong. My nice old neighbor had actually gone away for a few days, so with nobody around, my package was left next to my front door. But it wasn't there when I got home. Oh yes. Yes, dear reader. She had it. About 10 minutes after I got home, I heard the familiar stomping on the stairs and the banging on my door. Long story short, my package had been delivered, and she wanted to do the nice thing and hold on to it until I came home, but apparently it had accidentally ripped, and she saw what was inside. I won't lie, it was intimate toys. I like to treat myself, sue me. The moment I opened the door, she threw the package at me, yelling how I was a disgusting pervert and I should move out before it spreads. Yes, that libido that, can only occur if you give it to someone. That's how biology works. I told her that opening someone else's mail is a crime. It's not a crime to buy those kind of things, but thanks for taking care of my package. Some great suggestions in the comments. I would have told her that it was her Christmas gift, and now she's ruined the surprise. Tell her it's actually a gift for her to go and literally frick herself. And this one with a response, whoa, pump the brakes there, Satan. You should buy a place and move out, but keep the apartment. Rent it out to teenagers for as cheap as you can afford. Tell them about the crazy lady and make a deal with them. Every time they bug her to the point of lodging some kind of complaint, knock $5 off their rent. Nothing illegal or destructive. God damn, sir, I am scared of you. But despite all these good intentional laughters of love towards the OP, it seems some other subreddits sharing the story had other ideas. Editor adds, so this has ended up on another sub and I have been flooded with angry messages asking why I didn't file a police report for her opening up mail. Because the police don't do schmidt in my area. My friend is being harassed by his drug-riddled neighbor. She has tried multiple times to break into his house and put her aggressive dog in his yard. He has taken videos, photos, called the police and the ranger many times about it, and they keep telling him there is nothing they can do because they didn't see her do anything. Yeah, big help there. I called them asking what happens if someone has tampered with my mail, and was asked, did you see them do it? And are you sure it didn't come that way? I think it's in a comment somewhere I meant to add it and straight up forgot. Half the time I can't find my car after work. But yeah, essentially they have actually already talked to police about this and there is nothing they can do. Which is surprising, but also sadly depressing at the same time. Because at the end of the day, you are accusing them of doing something. You need the evidence, not just you seeing the consequences or results of you leaving a package around. Now don't get me wrong, that's not me defending the behavior of the Kraken here, and it definitely seems like her MO. But from the outside looking in, it's just a case of a damaged package, so what can you do? Either way though, considering it's been over 2 months, fingers crossed this is all that they've had to deal with and things have settled down. But that's all so far in the story. Hope you enjoyed it and many thanks to the OP for dealing with such a terrible person and nonetheless keeping it entertaining along the way. Anyway, hope you've been good, thanks for coming back, and hopefully I'll make sure to keep it up to see you again next time. Until then, you be good, love your face, bye bye.